On this week's City Skylines 2 o'clock, public and cargo transportation, development point speculation, early community grumbles, and this week we debut a new special guest, Shawn Builds.
How's it hanging, dudes and dudettes? My name is Shawn, and I like to cover news on Cities Skylines 2, and I also love to just build in Cities Skylines. I'm that type of guy. I like to build in Cities Skylines. I like to cover news. If you like that type of stuff, you'll like me.
Well, this is great. You're halfway through my first question, which was, tell me a little bit about you, but you're halfway there. Well, so you've got an American accent. I'm guessing that means you live somewhere over there. Are you over there?
Somewhere's over there, yeah, somewhere in the middle. I live born and bred actually in Kentucky. I still live there. I've been around, so there's kind of like the southern accent. I live in a state that is the most northern southern state. If you know anything about American politics, anything about American history and American culture, you will know that Kentucky is on the Mason-Dixon line. So there's a lot of southern types of dialects that will come through in a lot of how I speak. So you just have to ignore that or embrace that however you like to do it,
So we've got the whole small world syndrome of all the states in the entire country. Two of the regular guests on this show, because I'm hoping you're going to be a regular, come from Kentucky. You and this old gamer. It's like your neighbours. Do you know him?
Really?
Yeah.
This old gamer is from Kentucky? I did not know that.
He is a Louisville resident.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. I know of him. I did not know that though.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there we go. So we've learned something today that everybody knows everybody else. The 7 shades of separation, Jobby. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to introduce us. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, your channel. Tell us a little bit about how your channel is different from anybody else's.
Okay, so the Shawn Builds channel. A lot of Cities Skylines YouTubers nowadays are trying to find a way to, potentially talk about Cities Skylines while also finishing their city builds for Cities Skylines 1, which is like coming to an abrupt end within 3 months at this point, 3.5 months.
Yep.
Well, I am not constrained by those requirements. I talk about Cities Skylines 2. I speculate about Cities Skylines 2. I analyze Cities Skylines 2. I break down Cities Skylines 2. Every dev diary, every insight video, every tweet, everything you could possibly think of is on my channel. And then as a side factor, I do Let's Plays and Let's Builds. Now, those things will evolve and get longer and grow more as, as the channel gets further and Cities Skylines 2 gets launched and all that, of course, right? But as of right now, my channel has found its niche within the cities. A little bit of, a little bit, But Cities Skylines 2, my channel has found itself into that niche of speculation and world building and questioning what could be, what couldn't be. I allow a lot of people to come to my channel and just kind of vent and just let their frustrations out, or let them gloat and be happy about their cities and what they're excited about. I myself am a super fan of Cities Skylines 2. I will go out of my way to make excuses for them when I probably shouldn't, and that's just a fault of my own that you can love or not.
Oh, well, one thing that I am loving is these dev diaries. They're hitting us thick and fast now every single week. And this week we had public and cargo transportation. Now, clearly you've already covered it, so you'll have a lot of opinions. We will flip through some of the main bullet points on this, and you can tell me what your thoughts are. So we'll start off with depots or depots, depending on what side of the channel that you live in. You need a depot for railways and for subways now, because trains are no longer going to instantly spawn at stations. I think this is a really good thing and long overdue. What are your thoughts?
Okay, well, for example, there's a taxi depot, right? And that gives you a lot of insight into just what will happen, because that buses and taxis are the first thing you will be able to unlock within the milestone of Cities Skylines 2.
Yeah.
And so, being as that is what it is, taxis, buses having depots, and those being the first things that you're able to actually tangibly grab a hold of within the game and help your city, function, right? There's depots in every single facet of every single service, as far as I can tell. Now, That means like transportation, right? We're talking about transportation. We're not talking about, so taxi depots, tram networks. We're talking about buses. We're talking about cargo. We're talking about planes. All of these are sort of modular. If you get into some of the trailers, you can see that you're able to upgrade and build upon a regular taxi depot, a regular bus depot, a regular tram depot, a regular airline depot, right? You're able to have all these. I say airline depot. It's probably some different word, but there's a lot of those in there, and you're able to upgrade and, I want to say modular, but they're not necessarily technically modular. A lot of people will give me grief about that, but being able to customize and add on to your universities, your cities, your taxis, whatever your city service is that you want to upgrade, you're able to do that with what we now know as developer point. So that would be my thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I'll say where you were coming from, you've picked up a couple of my later bullet points as well there, where you're saying that, yes, trams, taxis, they all need depots. What about, and here's one that I've not seen, is with the shipping and with the airlines. You mentioned airline depots. I'm guessing that will be hangars.
Yes.
Or are they only going to spawn from outside connections? Similarly with shipping, I've not seen any word of maybe a shipyard for spawning our ships. So we know that we got outside connections, but it's also been stated we can actually ship from one harbour in our city to another. Where is that ship going to actually spawn from? This is a question that I would be very curious to know, because I've not seen anything about shipyards or ship depots.
Well, naturally, I would think that they would spawn from a particular company's orient, right? For example, let's say you have a masonry company and they tend to like build a lot of building blocks. Let's just say that, not that masonry is going to be in the game or anything like that, right? We can use ore, we can use oil, whatever you want to use, forestry. Let's say that there's a forestry industry and they want to ship their logs via boat to a different city, to a different part in your town, right? Let's just say it's just easier for them to get to this port to move to a different port in your own city, let's just say.
Yeah.
Well, it might be easier for them to literally spawn at the port. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be port spawns. It doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be out of bounds spawns, like, beyond the fog of war type of line, right? There's no guarantee of which that will happen. But what we do know for a fact is that our connections will have other cities connected to them. What those cities mean is yet to be determined. We don't know if they're going to be our cities. We don't know if they're going to be static cities from the game development perspective, just for the gameplay perspective, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen with that. But suffice it to say, I believe that there's going to be one of two spawn points. An out-of-connection spawn and probably an in-city spawn, which is probably going to be next to your harbor.
Yeah.
If we're talking about harbor specifically. Now, if we're talking about freight, trains, cargo, that might be specific to the cargo hub itself, or it might be specific to the company itself. We do know that companies are going to have a big play in Cities Skylines 2, and they're going to want to actually find a good, suitable location for their company that makes sense and is viable for their economic fortitude. So, that being said, it is still unclear of where ships, freight, trains, cargo will spawn, but we do know that there is some sort of spawn point in between our harbors, our freight, our initial locations to other cities. There is so much speculation in between there that, you could technically make, an hour-long video upon that and just be like, well, what could this be? What could that be? What if this is? The possibilities are endless. And that's what's really great about speculation early on in these early days. We will get more information as it comes, or they might just withhold that until the game launches. But it is a thing that is yet to be confirmed. I do think that our potential for creating goods will probably spawn our very own locations for freight and ships and stuff like that, cargo, to move to other cities, to create an economy and a balance of, imports to exports and goods to, to uses and stuff like that. So, it's really, it remains to be seen. But if you was to if you was in a casino and you was to put money on on a certain, red or black, I would say that our companies will spawn their own ships, but they will interact with other city ships and vice versa, and they could spawn from others to import there. Because what happens if you have a city that's tropical and you don't have a lot of lumber, you don't have a lot of wood? Well, you want to, import lumber from another city, and how would you do that? You might trade ore, you might trade oil for that lumber, and now you have an economy, right? Now you have a back and forth. So the spawning might happen between the 2 points, or it might happen at each point, or it might happen, I might just be blowing air up your butt. I don't know. So
yeah, this is it. I'm really curious. So to say we do definitely, like I say, we know we've got depots for buses, we know we've got depots for trains, but just no sound of depots of whatever value they might be or whatever name they might go under for. And it seems odd to me that a ship would spawn to carry cargo when that doesn't happen. All the other aspects of the game do seem to be interplayed now, so that we know that cars, they're not pocket cars anymore. They've got to be parked. These things don't seem to miraculously appear out of nowhere. So I'm just curious to know where these ships are going to arrive from. But the air side of it is another thing that has really caught my eye. And this one is just more an aesthetic thing. I don't think it's not going to affect how we play. In fact, it probably affects how we play more now than it's going to affect how we play in the future. And that is with the realistic takeoff and landing animations. Because as we all know now, you put down your airport, the runway is like 50 feet long, and that's it. And then the plane takes off almost vertically. And it doesn't matter if you put a 42-mile high skyscraper at the end of the runway, because the plane will just clip through it and it's fine. With the new game, there's going to be limitations to the height of buildings at the end of the runway built into the game. So it's not one where you or I will now think about, I'll put some small buildings there, I'll put some medium-sized buildings a bit beyond it, just because to make it look aesthetically real. It's actually going to be built into the game. I think it's really nice. But those realistic animations are just so smooth.
Yeah, I would agree. I also think that the height requirement around an airport is a design choice by the developers because, for example, they tell a lot of realism. Like we want you to create the realistic city of your dreams. That's one of their bigger slogans that they propagate a lot. And I would say that being that there is a lot of height requirements around a city lets them know that that a lot of people will probably lets us know rather that a lot of people will probably be building cities haphazardly. There's a lot of Cities Skylines people who will just for example, speedrun the game and just plop down roads and everything, and then plop down an airport and just plop it and plop it and plop it and plop it and then change it into Rico. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's that happens a lot, and I think now they are actually transitioning to a realistic version of this is what you'll need to do. You need to think about these things. If you're going to plop your airport in the middle of an entire city, know that it will have the surface area of a small town. Yeah. Know that you will have small skyscrapers, if skyscrapers at all, around the perimeter of your airport. So what does that lead us to believe? Oh, well, we should really think about where we put our airport, how fast we should put our airport. Okay, we get developer points. We've increased our experience points. We have developer points now to be able to buy an airport. Just because we should, just because we can, doesn't mean we should, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And speaking of, I love that little quote from the video that they did. I've got to say, I am absolutely loving the way that these games developers, they're just regular dudes in the office. I can't remember their guy's name who was in the first couple of episodes. Don't remember the girl's name in this one, but there's something really charming about them. They're clearly not used to being in front of a camera. They're all about building, and I just love the the love they have for their game and how awkward they are in front of the camera is so sweet, and I just love them for it. Anyway, let's get rolling along, because we're down with less than 10 minutes left and we've got plenty to carry on with.
It really is so wholesome, though.
It is so beautiful. They're beautiful people. The Finns, they're great. Anyway, we've got a few things. We'll try and keep these to almost bullet point answers if we can. So first of all, really good to see like industries mechanics tapped into good storage in harbours and rail yards.
Yeah. Okay, so a thing about that is harbors and rail yards, you'll be able to... You notice how in a lot of old City Skylines 1 videos, people will naturally try to navigate their railways towards their harbor areas, towards their airport areas, and try to make that whole industrial shipping, cargo, storage, transport hub area like you see in a lot of large cities. Now that's kind of built into the game. You kind of have to do that. If you don't do that, well, then you're going to fall behind, because who wants to ship their freight halfway across the city just to get to the harbor when, guess what? The ore on that area, they could have just had that area solidified and made properly. And if you just didn't do your due diligence and figure out where your ore was and where your resources are and where you should naturally plop your area and how your commerce goes within, like, okay, naturally you want your commerce to be able to ship to outside cities. You want you to be able to get access to the highway. Why would you have your industry in the middle of your city? Why would you do that? Now you have to think about that. It doesn't just make sense because you can have nice roads and you can get the president road mod, and now all of a sudden you can just make all your roads run smooth, and it doesn't matter where your freight goes because they'll just get there naturally. And it might take a little while because time doesn't work the same in the real world as it does in City Skylines, so no big deal. Now all that's different. You have to think about where you're placing things, where you're moving things, how they move there, and what is the cost of them moving to that area to get shipped to other places for you to make a profit. And it doesn't net you profit. If it doesn't net you profit, is it viable?
Indeed. Yep. Speaking of profits, let's very quick. In fact, I'm not even going to get you right to reply on this one. I'm just going to say, really good to see we can set our own ticket prices, which is going to affect not just our profits, but how we can drive demands on different routes, and also the one I think that most people were sort of like wowed by in the last update was waypoints for buses, which I assume will also include other vehicles as well. Of course, that means it won't include other vehicles because I seem to get everything wrong. You've already covered the buses and the taxis being unlocked with the milestone progressions, so we'll move on from that. Development points. Let's give you 90 seconds to speculate on how that might work.
Development points are the most important aspect of the game. You can unlock things by milestone progression, that's fine, but what else do you need within that milestone progression? What kind of modular buildings do you need? Do you need to upgrade your city hall? Do you need a prison? Do you need a city hall? You will need all of these things within your own development points. You will gain development points by growing your city, by expanding your city, by gaining your population, by unlocking new things, by plopping things, by cementing things into reality. And if you don't do those type of things, you will gain less experience, which means you will gain less developer points. And what happens when you need a prison and you have a lot of crime in your city? Police departments don't make a difference. You can plop them down all day long, but you need a prison. You need somewhere to house those people who are doing bad. Well, what does that mean? That means you need developer points. If you're not on top of that, you're not on top of your XP, you're just willy-nilly buying things because you want this nice little tram modular building. Well, okay, that's cool, but you needed a prison, and you could have used those 2 points to add to those 4 to get the prison. Right, developer points are going to be the backbone of Cities Skylines 2. Mark my words, you heard it here first.
Oh, fantastic. Well said. I just love that. I love the passion that you've got there. Right, okay, let's move on to a couple of community grumbles. These are things that I've seen on Facebook and Twitter, etc. I know one of them you've already made a thing of on your channel, so you'll have an opinion on the colour of windows. They are very yellow when the lights are on. Are they too yellow?
Don't get me started, BonBon. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm a super fan of Cities Skylines first and foremost. I love this game. But if there's one gripe I have, it's the color of the windows. Now, I get it. they want to showcase that there is interior design to these windows. It's you're showing life to their skylines. They're showing life to their buildings. If you cue into any up close and personal skyline of any large city nowadays, you will be able to see those yellow lights. You will be able to see sometimes buildings, you know, with interior designs. You'll be able to see those IRL in real life. But when that time switches to daytime, they are reflective windows.
Yeah.
They are not yellow. They are not yellow. It is not noon, 1 o'clock, midday, and their skyline 32 stories up is just yellow and everybody can just see them making coffee in their house. That doesn't work that way. That's not realistic. You need to have reflective windows. During the daytime, reflective windows. During the nighttime, those yellow homogeneous type of interior design illuminating lights. That's fine. Now, beyond that, let's say you fix that. At nighttime, more than yellow lights, we need incandescent lights. We need white lights. We need green lights. You can see that in some of the hospital type of I don't know how you say it, like the still frames. If you pause the video on the hospital, you will be able to see, or different videos or different buildings, you'll be able to see green lights, red lights. If somebody has different blinds pulled down over their windows, that's fine. Why is that not in every single skyscraper? That would 100% change the ball game for realism as far as lighting goes with skyscrapers.
Yeah, with you on that one. And another one that has been picked up on, I've seen a couple of places, is regarding the subway station. We haven't got much time to talk about this one, so I'll just feed you what the grumble is and then we'll talk about saying goodbye. Excuse me, coughing away here. The subway station has fencing around it on 3 sides, and it seems to be set on 3 sides. And should the subway station have fencing around it? Just did not have fencing around it. I think I prefer it without the vanilla fencing. Also, possibly even a smaller footprint. But anyway, that's got that out of the way. We're down to our last 30 seconds. So if you'd like to say goodbye to the community, we'll wind this thing up.
Hey, you know, I love you guys. If you want to check out my channel, that's fine. But also give BonBonB love. He's an OG YouTuber, and he has been painstakingly doing What's Maps for years, and he deserves a lot of credit. So that's all I got to say.
All I can say to that is you're very, very welcome. Thanks, hit the like button, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.